Okay, so here's our first problem. Find the mean, median, mode of the data set with the outlier and without the outlier. Make a box and whisker for both. It is frozen. So this is, in a sense, two problems in one. We have to do one problem with the outlier and one problem without the outlier. And you're going to get a bunch of numbers out of order. They always put them out of order just to make sure you can do step one. So 16, 19, 21, 18, 84, 18, 20, 22, 23, and 17. And these numbers are referencing ages of people in a random group. Okay, so you got some teenagers, you got some 20-year-olds, and then all of a sudden this one looks interesting. You have an 84-year-old. So just to you and me, it's just going to be a bunch of numbers that we're going to have to put in numerical order. But where those numbers came from are just a random sampling from a group and asking what their ages are. So, step one. Always make sure you're in numerical order. So you have to just very carefully put these in order, starting with the smallest number, 16. And then looking to see if there are any other 16s. No, there are not, but there's a 17. Followed by a couple of 18s. And then there's this 19 with this 20 and 21. And then there's this 22 and 23. And then after 23, there's the 84-year-old. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's always good to count to make sure you didn't miss or skip any numbers. After you get a numerical order, we're going to start destroying this. But the first thing you do after numerical order is you figure out where's the middle. So if we look at this, there are 10 numbers here. So that means the middle is going to say there are 5 numbers on the left and 5 numbers on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is no number perfectly in the middle. Okay, so it's just a middle blank spot dividing 5 on the left and 5 on the right. So let's make a note. There is no official middle number, but there is still going to be a median. The median is the middle number, and so since there is no middle, we're going to go ahead and say that the median is going to be between 19 and 20. And so adding those together and dividing by 2, we'll get 19.5. So our median will be 19.5 since there is no middle number. Once you find the middle of the whole thing, you want to look at the left side and ask yourself, if I were just to focus on the left side, is there something called the middle of the left? There are 5 numbers here. Of those 5 numbers, this number would be designated as being the middle of the left side. That right there is called Q1. If you're a sports fan, football, basketball, think of it as the end of the first quarter. Okay, Q1. That's the middle of the left, so Q1 is going to end up being 18. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Is there a middle of the right? There is. So if we count it out, there's 5 numbers. That makes the 22 being the middle of the right side. That's going to be referred to as Q3. Sports fans, that would be like the end of the third quarter. Q3 is 22. We also know from sports that Q2 would be halftime. So another word for median would be called Q2, or halftime. Okay? Now, of all of those maneuvers, we're going to be able to answer some questions. We can answer the first M, median, turned out to be 19.5. The mode, if you recall from the other side, was the one that happened the most often. So if we go back to our list, which one had the most duplicates? It appears to be 18. So remember, this one is the most duplicates. This one is the middle number. And the other M was mean. To find the mean, you have to get the average of all those numbers. So you'd need a calculator, and you would add up all these numbers. Adding them all up would get 258. How many numbers are there? There are 10 numbers, so divide by 10. The average of those 10 numbers, 258 divided by 10, is 25.8. And that would be the average. Now, those are the 3 M answers, but there are other answers that are very important. What number would be designated as the outlier here? The outlier is the number that really kind of stands out, that has nothing to do with all the other numbers. And so, if we go back to the list, these are the ages of all people. And the ages of all of them tend to be on the younger side, except for the 84-year-old. So I would say the 84-year-old person is the outlier. Sometimes there is not an outlier, okay? It's only if it's like very obviously doesn't belong, okay? And then the other answer we'll want to talk about is the range. The range is super easy. What's the biggest number there? 84. What's the smallest number? 16, so you just do a quick subtraction. 84 minus 16 is 68. That would be considered the range. And so we're going to use these answers to make our box and whisker. How do we make our box and whisker? If you recall, you start with the smallest number and put a dot, 16. You put your biggest number with a dot, 84. You go up and grab Q1. Q1 was 18. 18 is really close to 16. So I'm going to put a bar here, and I'm going to call this bar Q1 for the number 18. I'm going to do the same for Q3. Q3 was 22. 22 is not close to 84. It's a lot closer to over on this side. So we're going to put 22 Q3 here. 22. And then in between both of those bars, I'm going to go grab the median, which was 19.5. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in between here. Now 19.5 is closer to 18 than 22. So I'm going to put my bar here in the middle a little bit closer to 18. I'm going to call that the median. I'm going to say it's 19.5. I'm going to connect all these bars on the bottom. I'm going to connect all the bars on the top. And I'm going to stretch a line from that box on the left and right to the biggest and smallest number, making our box and whisker. Now, what is this box and whisker actually representing? What this box and whisker is saying is this. There are 10 numbers. Half of those numbers, 50% of those numbers are to the left of 19.5, and 50% of those numbers are to the right of 19.5. Half of them are on the left, half of them are on the right, and that kind of makes sense to the work that we did up above. What else does this say? This also says between 16 and 18, 25% are between 16 and 18, and the other 25% are between 18 and 19.5. And the same can be said of this 50%. 25% are between 19.5 and 22, and then the other 25% take up all this space over here. So that's why the 84 is such an outlier, is because there is such a this large space, unlike the other three. These three are more related. This one is definitely not as related. The box and whiskers shows that.